All right, what we're going to do is we're going to go over training on documentation on your notes. I'm going to become more and more picky about this because as we grow, as we continue to grow, and as we grow together, sometimes we get a little bit lackadaisical, and sometimes I don't see it, and then I see it. Or then Merlinda sees it, then I see it. The last thing I want to do, and that you want me to do, is kick these back to you, right? Because then you got to either revise, redo. I know you hate this. I'm going to be real with you. I know you're sitting down at the end of the month and doing all of these all at once, most of you. I don't care. That's fine. That's fine. And some of you might be doing them at the end of the week, and then the end of next week, and then the next week. That's ideal. But if you have a good memory or you got a calendar and you're jotting things down, and then you sit at the end of the month, they need to be turned in and you fill them out, that's fine too. Okay, so I'm going to point out to you some of the issues that we've been having and how to avoid to get these notes kicked back to you. Okay, so I did these notes yesterday myself. My client's John Doe. I wanted to do Cheech or Chong, but I'm like, oh, let's just stick with John. Anyway, I'm going to point out the very first port where it says John Doe, love, and it has his local case number. Most of you, if you do not, already have this filled in for you by us. Okay? That's the only thing we fill in for you. Sometimes I did put some initials, but I'm told don't do that anymore by the state. So that's not a huge big deal. I've questioned them, like, you're really going to recoup money because I put initials in for them? No, that's not even part of the billing guidelines. So even if the initials might be filled in, it's not a big deal. I may have typed in your name here where it says printed name. Stuff that I can get away with and do that you don't have to do. You may have that, and that's your master copy. If you lose your master copy, I have them saved under your folder, the digital folder. I can resend it to you. You can print as many as you want. You can just save it in your, if not, save it when you do get it, save it on your hard top or your computer, wherever you want to save it. So that way you always have something to revert to if you do need to revert to it. If you move, where it says location, that has to change. Let me know ahead of time if you're moving. I already heard somebody's moving. Let me know ahead of time if you're moving, and then we will give you the notes. And we can have a fluctuation that will allow us to, like, say you move on the 18th, I'll let you write out the notes with your old location code, but you will be assigned a new location code if you move. And then the next month, we'll put in that you moved on the 1st. It's not that much of a big deal. And then you can start your notes with the new location code. But you got to get rid of all the ones that have the old location code. Get rid of them. Don't use them. Because guess what? We'll kick it back. Because the location code's wrong. Okay. So that's only if you move. If you move an address. An address no matter what.
No matter what. Okay.
From one address to another. If you move down the street or next door, your location code's going to change. Okay, so those are things that that can be pre-filled without the state saying anything. So the first thing that is circled are the dates. This is last week's notes with me and John. Okay, so what is it on this date that is so important that sometimes you've had them kicked back? I know you know who you are. What is it about the dates that is so important you have to make sure you put? The year. You guys know it. Make sure you put the year. You guys put the year, you put the year, you put the year. This month, this month, this month. You put the year in October, you put the year in November, you put the year in December. But then I get January's, and guess what's missing?
The year. It's a new year.
I know it's a new year. You're supposed to, of course. Make sure it has all 3 elements. Process. I got 2 quality assurers. Gary, because he's the biller. And Merlinda, because she's the case manager. Typically, if it's something that is, you didn't sign, I don't expect Gary or Merlinda to say, are these good notes? They know they're not any good notes if there's not a signature. They might kick them back, but there's a question, and they're questioning it. Most of the time, they're running it through me before they get kicked back. So, but I don't recall that they're 24 that they needed to have the 4.
I've been running the whole 20. It's been
No, just write the last 2 of the year.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go through these a little. Some things I want to identify. We want to, our goal is from having any state auditor question the validity of whether you're providing services. So one thing you cannot do, other than what I've already pre-filled for you, is make copies of anything in addition. So I've had people sign and then leave everything else black, and their signature is the same signature over and over and over. That's not acceptable. Whatever I give you as a master copy is what you can make copies of, and everything else has to be either filled in, typed in, or written in. But your signature can either be it has to be an ink signature or electronic signature. Who's doing electronic signatures? I don't think anybody in this room. You're doing electronic signatures? Okay. So, just to tell on electronic signatures, you can fill these out. It's really easy. I would recommend doing that. I'd rather do it if I was a host home provider. Would do electronic signatures. The electronic signature, and when I send you this note, your master copy, you can click on the little red arrow.
Oh, okay.
And it said for you to sign. Yep. When you send you the master, I can send you a master with an electronic signature if you don't have one.
I can send it to you.
It has a little red arrow, and you click it. The thing is, then they'll ask you to do a password. There's lots of signatures there's electronic signatures that don't necessarily have a passcode. If they don't have a passcode, then they don't accept that. So if you click that little red arrow, it will tell you, do you want to create your signature? And it'll give you different options if you want to really write it down and you have your own signature, or you can pick a font that matches your signature, but you have to put a passcode in it. Yes, and passcode in and use it. Here's the thing about electronic signatures. They're time-stamped. That makes sense now? So no, we can't give you one. I think I know what question you're asking. No. You're writing these notes. They're time-stamped. So say they have to be within a time frame that's, it can't be, you can't timestamp today for October's notes. Does that make sense? It got to be at least within a week is what the state's telling me. If you're using electronic signatures, and if it's, I think she said about a month, within the month, because I know a lot of people come in and do it, and they sign all the notes, your 4 notes, you're time stamping them, electronic signatures at the end of the month. That's okay. But anything like a month prior, you can't do that. If you want to do electronic signatures, she's saying you have to keep the original email that I sent you with the original this, and then that's the only one that has the red arrow. Yeah, if you save it to your computer, it doesn't. The other provider that does this a lot, he's not here. I'll ask him to see if he's having the same issue.
Send me a text message.
I'll figure. We'll try to find out. Also, you can go. Also, if you want a blank one, you can do HCS forms 4122, and it'll give you without this filled in, and it'll give you the. See if maybe you can download that off the website and see if that allows you to take it. But you might have to fill this in. I don't know. Good question. I don't have an answer to it. Okay, so we know about the dates. Let's move on for John needs bathing, dressing, personal hygiene, eating, so on and so forth. You see meal planning. Here's what I'm trying to avoid. Everyone's marking meal planning. Are you meal planning every day?
Yeah.
Okay, then mark it. If you're not meal planning, then don't mark it. There's certain tasks on here that I don't want them to question you on. You see what I'm talking about? I don't want them to say, housekeeping. I wish I had a housekeeper to clean my house every day, but I can only get around to it on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I want it to be realistic as possible. Make it realistic as possible to what's actually going on in your household. Every situation is unique. I'm not going to nitpick and say, "Oh, are you really doing that?" But I'm doing this because this is John Doe and me and John Doe. So I'm trying to, in my mind, I just do John's laundry 3 times out of the week, But
It's daily.
yeah, but I'm trying to instill in you is that sometimes some things don't look realistic if you mark every time, every day for everything.
Yeah, but on meal planning, I mean, out of 3 meals a day, I mean, if
Yeah.
you do 1 or 2
Right.
of them, I'm
Yeah,
checking.
I get it. I'm not questioning you. I'm just saying there's some things that you can.
I can't imagine.
Imagine this: when you used to go to school. This is where I've kind of used this example. When you used to go to school and used to do those dots when you took the test, like or when you college SAT and stuff. It's like this, and you would do Christmas tree and all that stuff. I don't want it to look like a Christmas tree every note. Does that make sense? If it looks ideal every week, it's going to start to raise questions. Mind you, it's not me. I'm just trying to keep our noses clean, basically. So this is the only way I could think of kind of presenting it to you. And I know it's different for everybody. I know sometimes you do the same thing every day. It's repetitious, but I have a solution for you. I'll have a solution at the end of this to make it look so it's not repetitious. You're not going to like it, but I have a solution. Okay? So that's the point I'm trying to do. Community integration, that's one. Participate in leisure activities. Just be wary of what it's saying and don't mark every day, because you're not participating in leisure activities every day.
Yes, he is.
Okay, see? There's certain things that they would question just depending on the situation. I will tell you a story. I had a person, I don't drive. She didn't drive. She's a provider, host home provider. She doesn't drive. We got a statement, will not drive, Guess what she was marking every day that she was doing? Because they get used to doing at the end of the month. Just pay a little extra attention. You know what I mean? And then it's like, it caught me. And guess what? There's 3 months of her driving when she doesn't have a driver's license. I'm like, oh. So guess what I had to do? Take it back and have her redo 3 months. So that's our fault in a sense, and we own it because we should have caught that. But that's where Gary and Merlinda come in most of the time.
So what do they mean when they say participates in leisure activities?
I wish they had a reference guide. They
George
don't.
was on his tablet all
They
the time,
don't.
or he's doing blocks, or he's doing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty leisure.
I mean, does leisure mean in home or does it have to be out of home? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and what's leisure to me and what's leisure to you may be 2 different things. But there's a way that we can tackle this. Yeah. He asks if the person had a good week, do we need to put anything in the comments? We'll touch on that later. Okay, so one thing, like there's certain things that you might not be doing once a week. Just be wary of that. Just kind of pay a little bit more attention. We don't want these to look like they're just the same thing over and over and over. But like I said, I have a solution. All right. IP skill development. Who knows what IP skill development is? Anyone know what IP skill development is?
What their lot of working.
Then why y'all marking that you're doing it every day? You got to know what it is to mark what you're doing every day.
Working on, working toward.
All right,
So what is it?
flip to this. John Doe's action plan. Do you know where this came out of? You guys should know because you go through it every year with that service coordinator that you love so much and that changes every 3 months.
Yep. Yeah.
It comes from the PDP. That PDP meeting where it says, John's going to get this, John's going to get that, John's going to get this, John's going to get, what's it say in the top right-hand corner, desired service? You're seeing the same thing I am? Someone said it. Host home and companion care, that's what you guys do, right? There's only one sheet in your PDP that has this. Then the next one might be ISS. Then the next one might be, do you need an extra one?
Yes.
Okay. ISS, the next one might be OT, PT, speech, whatever your service array is, they're all going to have an action plan. You have an action plan, and most of you participate in these meetings because you're the LAR or the family or mom and dad. You have an action plan. So what's John's action plan here? What does John's outcome is? John wants to be able to make transactions at a department store. Your service coordinator is either going to turn to the LAR or going to turn to the verbal individual who can be able to communicate that and ask them, what do you want out of the host home component service array? Out of mom and dad. What do you want mom and dad to teach you? And you might hoping they say, I wish they say brush their teeth because they don't brush their teeth. They might say, no, I want to be able to go to the store and make a transaction. That's going to override anything you think they want because it's a person-directed plan. And then what's the pertinent information? Host home Rudy will assist John on money management skills weekly at home by counting out correct change in a mock transaction. Does that make sense? Do I sound like a service coordinator? Yeah. So I used to manage them for years ago. And I was actually working for the LIDA when PDPs actually came into play. Yeah, it used to be called ISPs, individual service plans. Then they changed them for person-directed plans, which made it seem, ask the individual what they want out of the service. That is called IP skill development. Do you make the correlation now?
Yep.
If you need a PDP or a copy of the PDP, email case manager at icareservicesinc.com. You're staring at her right here. Email her and tell her, give me a copy of the PDP and see what it says I'm supposed to be doing. You get paid 365 days a year, but this might take only 1 week for 15 minutes. And that's what's on the plan. The state's going to monitor that you're doing what that individual requested for you to work them on. How are you going to identify that you're doing that? On your note. That makes sense? So only mark IP skill development if you're doing IP skill development and it's matching what your PDP says. Right, Merlinda?
Yes, and it's only on the host home part. You don't.
Only host home.
Yeah.
Just look at, that's why it said point out desired service, host home. Not nursing, not any ISS. It's only what it says that the host home service is supposed to be providing, because that's what's important to the individual that you're caring for. All the rest of the bathing, though, that's, we know we're going to do it. They're not asking for you to bathe them. They're not going to say, I want bathed every day. No, that's not going to be an action plan more than likely. So they are written differently based on the service coordinator, based on the LIDA. Some of them are very intense, some are very minor. So pay attention to that. We're better than that, right? Yeah. Let's pay attention. If you have any questions of what it says on there, let me know. We'll look at it and tell you. If we need to kick it back to the service coordinator, it's like, really? This is really, very vague. We need more specific, something more specific. But if it's vague, don't even mark that you're doing IP skill development at all. And then a good surveyor would know to make that correlation. But it says weekly, but you're checking every day. That brings up a red flag for billers or surveyors. Billing audits and surveying. We're going to get into different audits that I have, so it makes more sense to you how that works. Reinforcing specialized therapies. If you have a speech, OT, PT, behavior therapist that wants you to do something as a host home provider, between the time that they're doing therapy?
It's reinforcement.
What is it that you're reinforcing?
The therapy.
What is
Whatever's on
the-
PDP,
It
whatever,
doesn't have to be on the PDP.
whatever it is we're working.
Whatever the therapist tells you, good as range of motion. People who have OPT or OT. The therapist isn't going to go in and do range of motion for an hour and two and do some testing and make sure progress or lack of progress. But they turn to you as a host home provider and say, I want you to work range of motion every day, and then I'll come back and see progress. I'll come back and see. If you're giving those directives, you mark on that box. Make
You
sense?
don't have to make a note.
If they're not, some people are marking and they don't even have therapy.
Right, that's crazy, right?
The therapies would be if a therapist is telling you they want you to do a particular exercise or a particular task. My point is that people are marking that and they don't even have therapies. So same thing with IP. People are doing transportation, they don't have a driver's license. If the speech therapist is having you do vocal exercises or whatever, swallowing exercises, and it's in their assessment as part of the plan, and they want you to do it as a host home provider in between their therapy sessions, then you mark it. Any questions about specialized therapies? That is like somebody who is saying hi. You go into Walmart, and they saying hi to everybody that passes by. Hi, 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 hi. What's your name? What's your name? You get a lot of autistic traits in there. What's your name? Hi, what's your name? What's your birthday? And they're complete strangers. And you have to,
Reel them in.
that's that, something like that. That's social behavior that they go stepping a little bit overboard. And you're having to redirect them.
So should we check that?
If that's the case.
But not every day is what he said.
Right.
And are you going to Walmart every day, or are you going to so socially is kind of when you're out in the community, and there's some social issues going on. Okay, temporary discharge and active on leave. I said this to the CFC people when they're here. It's almost the same thing. If their individual is hospitalized, incarcerated, I did tell them out of state. That doesn't apply to HCS. If you're with them. If they're incarcerated in the hospital, please let us know right away. You cannot bill for it. Then you would check on that. You don't have to check anything else. You would check temporary discharge. We don't really temporary discharge them, but that's basically saying discharge from your services because you're not providing services. Even if you go to the hospital and you're helping the hospital staff out, that's a responsibility, but if you feel you need to be there, we can't bill Medicaid for it. Okay. That's when you mark that. And hopefully we know. I don't want to get a note and see temporary discharge and I didn't even know the person was in the hospital. We need to know. Someone can be active on leave up to 14 consecutive days and we can still bill. Okay. So those are cases. Say some of if there's any reason there's active on leave and you have questions, should I mark active on leave or should I mark temporary discharge? Call us and we'll kind of let you know what you should do. Basically, can we bill or can we not bill? Active on leave is also, and it's mainly for group homes too, because people that are in group homes leave for a while, maybe to go visit their parents, and they don't keep that group home from not billing the service. They just put active on leave because they're saving that bed, they're saving their belongings, they're having that bed is still saved in their name. So that's like an active on leave. Okay, here we go. Mr. Powell, you asked this question, someone else asked this question. Here's how we identify different from one week to the next. What do you think the answer is?
How you responded?
Huh?
How you responded, probably.
How do you identify a difference between this week? If you have a Christmas tree and a Christmas tree and a Christmas tree and a Christmas tree, what would you distinct the Christmas? Because some of you saying, we do the same thing every day. It's repetitive. Write a comment. How many of you guys are writing comments? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you not writing comments? write a comment. It will save you a lot of heartache. It will save me a lot of heartache if you just write a little blurb, right, Mr. Powell? Mr. Powell's probably one of the best in the comments. Every time I get his notes, I'm like, let me see what's going on here. Yeah. Write a comment. We don't want ditto comments like he did good this week. He did this specific ones. You know, we went to Six Flags. Are you going to Six Flags every week? No, I doubt it. Stuff like that. Something that's unique that happened in that week that you don't necessarily do. They had a doctor's appointment. Do you go to a doctor every week? Probably not. Those particular unique situations that happen in their lives that you help provide services to help make it happen, write a comment. If you leave it blank and it looks like a Christmas tree, it's going to put red flags. So please start writing comments. Please. It will save us a world of heartache. Any questions? Okay, here's the test. The next one that has John Doe. Tell me what's wrong with this. Who wants to go first?
You have the date, the month and the date, but you have the year.
That's right. That will get kicked back.
You didn't sign, you didn't put your name down here.
The what?
You didn't put your name down here.
You know what? That is good. You know what? I shouldn't have signed it. Because that would have been one. But the printed name that's not, the billing guidelines is not going to really, there's certain things, elements that have to be in a note in order for it to be a billable note. If we, and that's why I said the initials are not one of them. And if the printed name is there or not, it's not one of them. They want an ink signature or an electronic signature, even if you forget this part. What else? The checks. Yeah, I cringe every time. You know how many people I see this coming through? A lot. But if you write a comment, it's going to make it distinct from one week to another, right?
Yeah.
Right? That makes sense? Why comments can save our lives?
Yeah.
Any questions? So, once again, what's the easiest way to keep us out of trouble on our notes?
Write a comment.
Write comments.
Now,
Write comments.
Check
You can,
marks.
yeah, they don't, they say, I've seen in the past, the check marks are okay. Some people put their initials. You can put check marks. I've seen the squigglies going down to, not a big deal. Just make sure your squigglies kind of look different from one another. Do not use whiteout. Do not copy your notes that have already been marked on. Do not get your note because, oh, I ran out. I don't have time to make any copies. And then you get your old note and you start whiting out the date. Trust me, I've seen it. I've seen it. And we kick it right back. And I kick it back with a vengeance because I'm like, I know they know better than this. And it's just laziness kicking in. And they think, maybe Rudy won't see it. We see it. And when we have survey, we know survey is coming. We go through all of them and make sure they don't look like that because we've gone back and caught it and it's our fault. I'm like, God dang it. In February last year, they did it. And we'll make you redo it. Most of you know this already. Here is how you submit notes. You cannot, and I will kick them back if you're taking pictures and you're putting it and sending them. No. Do not take pictures. They can be recouped.
Okay, get one for D.
So we can't scan it from the phone?
If your phone has that scanning app, works really well, and it turns it into a PDF,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Okay, 'cause I've been.
That's fine. Yeah. If it looks funky, I'm going to take it back. I've got some with pictures where I got a picture of the note and here's the coffee cup and here's, all this. No, I'm kicking it back. That's for that purpose altogether, unless you're a professional photographer and you can zoom in really good. I just said no more of that. Yeah, making copies like through a copy machine, that's not an issue. When you're sending them to me, if that note that you made a copy in the machine and you're taking a picture, and then we see, the beautiful tablecloth that you have and everything else, those are going to get kicked back. Yeah. So just to avoid that, no pictures of them. Your phone does have a thing. Most of the phones do a thing with the picture you can turn to a PDF. Once they turn to a PDF, it actually frames it for you, and it cuts out the coffee mug and the pie crumbs and everything else. So here's another. You've already got this, but there's methods, ways of sending in your notes. Mr. Palomel's his. I know to expect them. It's like clockwork in my mailbox, except when I'm on vacation. They're saying, where's it? And then they'll call you and tell you, hey, Mr. Paul, you didn't send your notes. I'm like, no, he's really good. I just haven't got to my mailbox yet. Lisa mails her notes. I have some people that hand deliver their notes. Miss Bivens, she used to hand deliver when she lived in Dallas. They used to hand deliver their notes to me. That's fine. If you want to hand deliver them, I have no problem. Just try to do it before the 5th of the month. Okay. The mail, I know, snail mail, I expect them probably mid-month most of the time. But here's the methods. Fax, scan and email, mail, or hand deliver. If you need email, fax numbers, I have it here. Most of you should have it, but here it is if you need that information. Natural supports for, you're a natural support to Richard.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Richard, who's not here, is the actual host home provider, her husband. So when Richard's gone, Josh is using you as a natural support. And Richard would note down, because he's not there, use of natural supports.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yep.
Okay, natural supports. We got somebody natural supports who's visiting mom and dad, 2 of my clients. You know, that they can mark today, that would be a thing that you mark. Okay, I'm going to tell you some of the changes that I think that have happened within the past year and a half. We're going, in June, end of June will be 2 years that these have been in place, but it's taken a bit of time for it to kind of sink in. How many remember residential reviews?
Oh, I do.
Some of you are kind of newer that never have had a residential review. Residential reviews were, just for those who've never had one, are when a state individual, usually a survey from the survey certification or regulatory from HHSC, would knock on your door, sometimes unannounced, show their ID, and they would have a list.
Yeah.
What would they check?
Hot water heat.
Your hot water, your fire, soap detectors, all of that. But who's been checking them lately?
You have.
You had.
How often is that supposed to be happening?
Once a year?
Twice a
I wish.
Every 3 months.
When the residential reviewers would come, they were once a year. But someone had come out and they tricked us, basically is what happened. And you can edit this out. The state tricked us and said, how much do you want us involved in their lives? You know, do you want less of us or do you want more of us? You know, of course, what are we going to say? Less. So they took the residential review portion away. They said, okay, we're going to save some money on the state end and we're going to demolish this department. They shoveled those employees somewhere else. These are as to the surveyors. Yeah. Well, and then they said, and what we're going to do is we're going to sock it to the providers. And we're going to tell the providers they have to do these residential reviews. But then I'm like, let's sock it to them more. Let's tell them they don't have to do it once a year. They have to do it every quarter.
So every time we do a fire drill.
No. That's part of the change, though. This is where we're in the change section, the end of the agenda. Not only we're going to make them do it every quarter, we're going to make the providers do fire drills every quarter. And that was the give and take. And we're going to make the providers go and do these residential reviews on demolish this whole department, save us money, and make them do it and not pay them a penny more. That's mileage. Right, Merlinda? A lot of mileage. We argued at that point, you got to give us a little bit of compensation here because you just got rid of a whole department.
Right.
And you need to give that, flow that cash flow over here to us now because you're telling us not only to do it once a year, which I would have been okay with. You're now telling us to do it once a quarter? How many times does your hot water change per quarter, guys? Come on. And I see it makes sense for group homes. Because group homes, there's doors breaking, furniture breaking, crazy stuff going on. I will never forget this. I walked into a group home when I was a surveyor, and they had a fish tank. You couldn't even see the fish.
Oh my God, how nasty.
You couldn't even see the fish. And as I walked in, I stepped on dog crap.
Oh, no.
Dog crap all over the group home. And then I went down the hallway, went into the restroom. When I opened, I'm like, where's the toilet paper? There's no toilet paper, And then I opened the door underneath the sink that had no soap or paper towels. And there was all the toilet paper used.
Why would you go in the bathroom if there was dog crap on the floor?
What's that? Okay.
I say, why would you go to the toilet if there was dog crap on the floor?
Because I was working for the state and I was bound to find out what the heck was going on in this. Yes, I was a surveyor. And then I walked in and I see a guy in the hospital bed. And he goes, oh, get me out of here. Get me out of here.
Sad.
I'm like, dang.
Sad.
Now it felt as a state employee, it felt as my responsibility to do something. That company got shut down within a matter of weeks.
All right then.
It did.
You did.
Fortunately, what happened is his wife transferred and bought his company out. She had a clean slate, and it was actually his ex-wife. She had a clean slate. She didn't have any deficiencies or issues, but she inherited, and everything stayed the same. That individual in that bed died of bed sores.
So sad.
That's why they need to do inspections on a quarterly basis in group homes. Not you guys, your mom and dad. But guess what? We have to do it they don't make that differentiation.
They should.
They should, but they don't. But I get why they did it. I did. But it still doesn't make sense. So, but you guys, when the state was in charge, you were just going there once a year.
Yeah.
And that's why they're going unannounced. That's why. So they can stumble into what's really going on. These people knew I was coming 2 weeks ahead of time. Anyway, that's just a story. So that kind of gives you a little background of where these inspections come in. So anyway, so that residential review is taken away. So what do the residential reviewers always ask you for? That sometimes I don't have it. Remember that signature my sister would write, the nurse would write? We don't need to keep that in the home anymore. So I know I get calls every once in a while saying mine's old. Well, it is because no one's in there but me or Merlinda going in to inspect. And that's not even part of the checklist that you have to have in that. So they gave us a separate checklist, for us to check the water. So we have that checklist, and I think we've shared it with you. I think I visited almost everybody the first time this started to kind of let them know this is what's happening, this is what to expect. And Yolanda at that point when that started was in San Antonio. So I had to do all the Dallas people. Well, now that Merlinda's with us, Merlinda's doing that. But also what I'm having Merlinda do is also go over your services. Well, I want to make sure that your speech is being done on time, your OT is being done on time. I want to make sure that there's a service that should be providing that we're not. I know some of you are waiting in line for host home behavior supports and maybe speech because you want them in person. Since COVID, that's been nothing but turmoil for us providers because they allowed telehealth. And these providers get paid the same whether they do telehealth or they go to your home. So if they're going to your home, that means they got to get dressed, first of all.
Right.
Right? And then they got to get in a car. Then they got to drive X miles. Then they're there. They do their hour. And then they leave. If they're doing telehealth, well, maybe just from here up. They don't have to worry about have deodorant. They don't have to get in a car. And they're going to bill me the same. Because of that, in-home therapies has dwindled quite a bit. So I know, and for our population that we serve, sometimes telehealth is not the way to do it.
For everybody.
It's not. And I complained about this at the annual conference for PPAT. I'm part of the provider agency, provider something, I can't know the acronym. But anyway, and I mentioned this to the state. You need to make a different pay rate for telehealth versus in person. And they said, that's probably not going to happen. I said, well, until then, we're doing a disjustice to our people that really need in-home. I am working with one, and this is something in 2025 I'm trying to do, is I am working with an agency that I identified those things to them, and they said, we'll work with you. And we're starting out with speech. And it's going to be in-home or at the ISS, one or the other. So they also use speech assistants, and they charge me the same as a speech assistant as they do the supervisor, which before you never used to be able to use speech assistants. I mentioned this at the conference too. There should be a differentiation because that's a different education level.
Absolutely.
And they said that I doubt that's going to happen also already. Now shut up. I'm like, I'm just wanting everybody to know we're all dealing with this as providers across the state. So I do have a provider that is willing to do a lower rate for speech assistants. So at least we get a little bit of piece of the pie, and that they're willing to do it in a home. I need to get a hold of them and start that process. So we may move into, and I may share this with other providers that I'm aware of and that have them do. We may move to more of an in-house speech services to start with. And if that's successful, then we're going to move to behavior supports in-home speech or in-home behavior supports. So I know some of you are waiting for behavior supports and speech and things in person. And we keep on doing those referrals, right, Merlinda? We keep on doing, Merlinda should be doing those referrals and double checking with these agencies to see if they have anyone willing to do in-home. So that's something in the future. And I think speech is one that I get a lot of stuff from the people that might need and appreciate more in-home, and behavior supports. So I'm working on hopefully trying to do something in-house to be able to provide, to offer that to you guys if you need it. And then we'll go from there. So residential reviews. You do not need the nursing delegation, exclusion form. You don't need to maintain that anymore. So you don't, if you ask me for it, I might ignore you. Like, I don't need, if it's something less that we don't have to worry about, I'm going to take it. You know, so what else don't you have to do? Basically, the judgment of whether you are going to pass this inspection is now not up to the state. It's up to your friends here, me and you. We're going to give and take. You know, hey, I might tell you, you might want to change this or your water's too hot. You know, what now gets into annual surveys and certifications. So no more residential reviews, annual surveys and certifications. Dallas, we had ours almost a year ago. I was in the Grand Canyon when they called. They are, they also changed that. They changed those to unannounced. They used to give us 2 weeks. Like I said, the people had 2 weeks notice when I saw their fish tank out there, they could have cleaned the fish tank. I used to be a surveyor. If you don't know this, most of you guys know this, that they would give us 2 weeks. I would give 2 weeks courtesy for them to be prepared. And I would walk in, and then I would give them, at the time of the survey, it was called an entrance conference, they still call it, I would give them then a list of names of the charts I wanted to see of the people I wanted to interview and visit. They still do that. However, they're not giving us 2 weeks.
just show up in the door.
Huh?
They just knock on your door.
They just knock on your door. And guess whose door they're knocking on?
Yours.
And I might be watching TV and not even think about it. Dallas already happened in February. Do you remember I just said annual survey and certification? Keep that in mind. Because I'm going to get there and unedit bitch about that too. Sorry. Now they knock unannounced, and then they'll come and they'll tell us these are the people. And we want to see them today or tomorrow. Remember, I don't know when they're coming. So Dallas already happened in February. When was Fort Worth?
That's not.
No, it wasn't that. November? October? October. I have it. Fort Worth was in October. Dallas, I wasn't able to give a shout out because I was in the Grand Canyon when they called me. And I wasn't even there. So Gary helped. And Yolanda was there with us at that time. And so she was doing a lot of phone stuff with them the first day. And I just took an early flight out of Vegas the next day and was there in the morning. And they work with me. They'll work with you if you're not readily available physically. So they'll work with you. And there's some advantages to that. And then there's more disadvantages there than there's advantages. So Fort Worth. So this people, unless you're in East Tyler, Hawkins, Miss Bivens, if you're in the East and that end, if anywhere outside of Dallas County to the east, you guys is due. San Antonio's is due. Over 2 years due. Remember I said annual? So that makes it even harder. If it was annual and I knew they came in April last year, I'm going to expect them in April this year. But they're not on time. They're years late. When I used to work for them, we're always on time, so I don't know what happened. Yeah. So that even that makes it more difficult and more pressing for us just to be prepared, because we know at any time, Monday, Tuesday, they could say, we're here in San Antonio. And I got to stop what I'm doing and focus on that. And then probably get in my truck and drive all the way to San Antonio and be there in the morning. So it's not a fun experience. I urge, because I like to go on vacation. You know, like to go out of town. Sometimes it restricts me. But then when I know survey's done and then Fort Worth was done and I went on a cruise. I'm like, I'm going to be out of here for a couple of days, a week and a half or something. You know, because I know more than likely San Antonio's not going to be back to back. And stuff like that. So here's where my point is. Because they're going to walk in tomorrow and they're going to say, we have survey on Monday, and I don't have your notes, when are your notes due? The 5th of the month. When do you get paid?
On the 5th of the month. Before we get paid?
That's when you get paid. That's when your notes are due. So correlation. If you get that ding on your phone, like I get my ding on my phone when I get paid, who has that ding on their phone? Ding, ding, or text. And then you're like, ooh, I need to send in my notes. Oh, I haven't done them yet. But I got the money in the bank. Unfortunately, that's not happening enough. Your payments are automatic. I have them set up to be automatic. If the trend keeps on going the way it's going, there's a number of times that I'm not getting the notes on time, and it's the same perpetrators over. And mail, I get you mail. I know who you are, the mail people who mail them. Over and over and over. I'm at the point to where I'm going to either have to pull all automatic payments and wait till you give me your notes to pay you. You said what? Or I'm going to have to, that's mass punishment. I was in the military. That's mass punishment. I don't want to do that. But if for some reason you haven't given me your notes and Merlinda's checking and they called you and I'm going to get them to you. I'm going to get them to you tonight. And they still don't get them. And then we're already into next month and I still don't have the previous months. If you don't get that ding on your phone, you know why. I'm at the point where I need to start doing that because I don't know of any other way to handle it anymore. So please get your notes in by the 5th. Merlinda has directives of when she noticed. We're flexible. You know, we understand things happen. Merlinda knows when she needs to be approaching you if you don't have them in by the 5th. And then after that, if you still don't have them in by the 5th, you might receive a call from me. But you know how tired that gets? Now I know what my mom was telling me all the time. I'm talking to the wall. No. I feel the same way now. I know what's So please, we don't want to get to the point to where everyone's going to have to wait till their notes get printed in. And I bet you on the 31st, I'm going to be getting notes because someone wants to get paid the next day. But then you give me a little bit of leniency. I'm like, okay, let me get to this. And that's more work for us. And I don't want to do it. But, you know, you guys know who you are. There's some of you that are right on time. If you're not, I need you to improve on it. Good? Okay, let's see. Another thing that's going to happen that is unique to us. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it will happen. Every 5 years, I have to do a Medicaid administration renewal. The purpose of this is brought down by the feds. They want to make sure that we're legit. They're going to come to my house. They're going to make sure we have an office. They make sure we have everything because there's people in India that are taking Medicaid money. Swear to God. Office is there and it's all false documentation, false billing, and all that stuff. So they put this process in place. It's been in place for a while, but they've clumped it in with hospitals. They've clumped it in with doctors' offices. They've clumped it in with a bunch of stuff, and we're going to do this all across the board. One of the things that they're going to require for this process to be ended and for them to say, Rudy's a good provider, iCare's legit, they're going to go to your house. Any place that provides services, they want to see that it's an actual service providing house. What I've been told, I've not heard anything but bad stuff about this process from providers who have gone through it. They will tell me, when they will tell you when they're coming. They're going to say, hey, we're going to be there they'll tell you on a Monday that they're going to be there on a Thursday. All your providers need to be available on that day. If they're not available, we will stop your Medicaid funding. So I'm like, really? I'm in hearing this from other providers, and I'm in midstream of this process. So if you provide host home services, they will be going to your home. And they will give a day for them to visit. Good luck on visiting all what is now about 40 of my host home providers in one day. And they might have more than one staff doing it, you know. And they're going to go in, they're going to ask you a couple questions. They're going to take pictures, and they're going to split for 5 minutes. But it's almost like waiting for the cable guy to come when he says, we're going to get there between 8 and 4. Really?
So you give us a day ahead though.
They're going to give us a little bit of thing. But they give you this paper you have to sign. This is the secondhand information from you have to sign saying you agree all your providers will be available or you know that the ramifications will stop your funding. So if I got one provider and everyone else is available, they could stop my funding for the whole program. So that's something to look forward to in 2025 for me. It's really, I work for the state, so it's really kind of how, and these are federal people. These are people from CMS, right? I think from the Center of Medicaid Service. They're coming based out of the office that's run out of Washington, D.C. So they just want to make sure there's no Medicaid fraud and there's no fictitious locations, fictitious services being done.